Hello, welcome to Applied Database 1. In the past two sessions, we learned how to create tables based on the given database design. You will find a model, you create a design, and you translate that design into the code. In this session, we will continue building the whole database. Insert data, create the view, display the data inserted in each table. We would like to be hands-on in this lecture. Now remember that we are dealing with the View-Ridge Gallery, a small business company that sells contemporary European art based on the design. As you can see in the design, we have the artist that will create the work or who will create the work, and then the work will be priced at a certain value. A customer will be interested in acquiring the work of the artist through completing transaction. Usually customer will have interest in the work of a particular artist, which means the relation between the customer and the artist is many to many. And if you remember, we talked about that in the design session, that in a many to many relationship we create what we call an intersection table or an association table. If it doesn't have any attributes here, then it's an intersection table. Let's use the code for creating the artist table as we did before. So we're going to create the table and we'll move on from there. So let me log in. So let me log in to the Oracle Live SQL. And once you log in, you get the worksheet where you can enter the code that you want. You can either create the code on separate sheet and start implementing, or you can type the code. Just for the purposes of time, I want to go with just copy paste. So I did take that from the PowerPoint that we have. So I have the PowerPoint. I took the code that I wrote in the PowerPoint into the live SQL for Oracle. As you can see, this is to create the table artist. So we have artist ID as one of the columns, one of the attributes, and it's going to be my primary key. And we have the name of the artist, we have nationality, we have birth date, we have deceased date for the artist. We define that as number and character, and we have the primary key. We did that before. We're going to do it again and again to create the database and work on it. So we will run, and you can see that it states that table being created. After we create the table, we insert data. So we would like to insert some data in the table, so we can get the code, and I can write the code where we insert one line. You can insert the values, so insert into artist, the table, the columns, those are the attributes, the values, and I can put the values that I want, and I will run, and you can see that one row being inserted. Now again, also we learned the last session that instead of adding only one line, we can insert multiple lines. And to insert multiple lines, what we did, we used insert into the artist, but now we have a statement that will add more rows instead of one row, which is with names as, and select all from names. So with that, actually, with that statement, we created an ability to insert multiple lines together. So you can put 10, 12, 13, 20 lines, and that will be fine. Now remember just to union all for each step except the last step, because you are joining all these, so it will continue running and selecting and inserting the third row, fourth row, fifth row, and so on. So we will run the code, and you can see now 3 rows inserted. Once we are done, we can um, find if the information was there or not. We can use a select statement. We will talk in details about the select statement in the data manipulation language, which will be the next session. But for now, you can just write a code to display whatever we inserted in those fields. So we will write select from the table artist those fields. I want to see those fields, those columns, and you run the code, and you have the table that we just added. So those are the values that we just added. We added the nationality, the name, the artist ID, and we added the birth date and deceased date. So all these values, we can see it, we can display it using the select statement. And again, we'll talk in details about that in the next session. We can also do it through a view. If you remember the last session, we talked about the views. We can create a view. So instead of using this method, we can create a view. So I will say create a view, and I will name that view artist info view as, and then select the name, nationality from artist. Now the difference between this view and this one, now look at this one. This table is showing all columns, all fields. But this one here, I selected only 2. So I can use the view to hide or display anything that I want. Based on that, if you run the code, view created. Now how can I see the view? I did create a view, but it's not showing here. It just displayed. So to view what I did, or to display it, to display that view, we add another code, or we use another code, which is select all fields. This asterisk also a wildcard that we'll talk about next session. And from the artist info view, that's the view that I just created, and order by name, so it will order the values by name, and then run, and now we have it. So what we did, we displayed from the actual table, from the original table, we displayed only 2 columns, the name and the nationality. Not only that, and then we added an order by the name, where we start with the H, and then the M, P, and then the W, as you can see. So it's ascending, and you can see that it's showing 2 column and ordered by the name. So this is the benefits of using a view. Now let's add the second table. And the second table was the work. So we'll add the second table. And again, just for the sake of time, I'm copying and pasting from my PowerPoint, so you can create a table that's called work, and we have, those are the attributes or the fields that we are going to use. Now remember that I need to add the artist ID here as a column. We are adding artist ID as a column. Why are we doing that? To make sure that we are linking. It's an entity relationship, so we are creating the relation by adding artist ID into the work table. And remember that we are putting it not null, that means it's required. So it's required here, required there. That means from both sides it's required, it's not optional. So that's the minimum cardinality. And to confirm that, we add a constraint. The two constraints that we add, which is primary key for the work ID and foreign key for artist ID. What's my reference? My reference is the artist table. Then we run, and we have a table that's being created. And then we can insert data into the work table. And again, for the sake of time, I'll just copy paste what I did in the PowerPoint, so you can see I used multiple rows, multiple records, so I can add all of them at the same time, and then run, and I will have 4 rows inserted into my database. To see what I did, I can use again the select statement, and you can see the values that's been inserted into the work table. So this is the work, and those are the values that I just added. Just by running the code in seconds, I added all these fields. Now let's create the customer table. And what I'm trying here, I'm trying to finish the whole database that we just created, the database design. I'm trying to translate that into a code where we have everything written in code, and create the tables and the relationship between them. So now we have the customer table, run, and table being created. And then we will create an intersection table based on the design. So the table, the new table, which is the intersection, is called customer artist intersection, which has the customer ID and artist ID. Those combination of customer ID and artist ID are the primary key. It's a composite key, and both of them has to be, of course, related to their original tables, which is the artist ID and the customer ID tables. So I need to reference them to those tables, and then run. And now that table with the intersection being created. And the last one is the transaction table. And we create, or we hit run, and the table being created. With that, we added all tables. Now remember what I did do insert data for the artist. I inserted data for work, but I did not insert any data for customer or for transaction. Okay. So if you go under session, my session, and click on my session, it will show you all the code that you just implemented, everything that you just implemented. This is the create table artist table being created. This is 1 row, this is 3 rows, and then select and display the results, and then creating the view and select and displaying the view that we just created, and then create the table work and inserting. So actually we can save all that, or we can print it. We can copy paste it, print it all in a Word document, And if you have an assignment, after you finish all the work, you come to this one, which is my session, and it has all the information that you did. You just copy paste it, and it's in the Word document. And you go back to the fields that you created, and you can also take screenshots of that. So this is a way to take screenshots and to copy the information that you did. If you can print this page and put it in the Word document, then that's your assignment right there. Um, to leave you with something to practice with, I did add for you. This is the customer data, so you can add, try to insert at least 4 rows to practice. This is the artist data. This is the customer artist intersection. You don't need to add that. It will be created by itself. You don't have to do it. This is the work data, um, all that work data, and this is the transaction data. So with all this data, you can just again practice by yourself, insert as many lines as you need, create the database, paste it from here, use live SQL. If you would like to practice more, you can just try to create other tables as needed. If you would like to create the department table, employee table, any kind of table, just try and see if you can get the hang of it. And if you have any problem, just ask me any question. So that will be all for this session. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you and have a great day.